Hey guys, Exploit here, back again with another video, and in this video we're going to be looking at how to exploit WordPress. More specifically, we're going to be finding the username and the password on a vulnerable WordPress server, or in this case we're actually using a virtual machine that has WordPress running on it. Now the reason I'm doing this, and a lot of people ask me this question, is why hasn't your channel got any copyright strikes? And that's because I perform everything in my virtual lab. That means I'm not attacking anyone or causing harm to anyone apart from the targets in my lab. So I have downloaded a vulnerable WordPress server that is running on Debian from Turnkey Linux. I'm pretty sure you know that site. Right now they have a lot of virtual machine they have a lot of VMs that you can use for testing, etc. And you can learn and practice a lot of stuff. So I have it right here, and I've configured it up, and I've used the default credentials. So I actually don't know what the username and password combination is, and we're going to be doing it live. So there's some information here that it's giving you, which is pretty helpful. We know that the server, the IP address, the local IP address is 192.168.1.108. All right. So let's get started. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to start off with 192.168.1.108, right? And obviously it's going to be a WordPress site, as you can see here. And now the most important thing is to start enumerating the username, and hopefully we can crack a password. Now I do, like to just tell you that I'm using a word list, a basic word list that I found quite a few years ago that has been actually quite helpful. So I have that already downloaded, and hopefully we can find the username and password here. So it's using default credentials, so it'll be much easier, but I'm just explaining, this is just a bit of a practical explanation as to how one would go about doing this using WordPressScan. Alright, so we know it's running WordPress, and if you're familiar with web penetration testing, you know that WordPress sites have the WordPress admin page, right, that allows you to log in. So we know we can actually log in here. Sorry about that. All right, so anyway, it's working really well. So WordPress is actually running, and I do not know the login credentials, so we're going to hopefully try and find them. Now we do have the server IP, and obviously we do know that it's running WordPress, right? So the first thing we need to do is we need to open up WordPressScan or WPScan. All right, so as you can see, I have it on my favorites or on my dock here, and to launch it, it's really very simple. You can just go to your terminal and you just hit WP or WordPressScan. So whoops, my bad. Sorry about that, guys. Apologies there. I was smashing on my space bar. All right, so WPScan. All right, and if I just hit enter, it's going to give me the help options. There we are. So there's a lot of options, and we'll be covering most of them here. We can also use the WScan help. All right, so to enumerate the help options, there we are. So we have the help options, and we're going to be using some basic commands here, and I'll be explaining what they do. All right, so let's get started now. The first thing we need to do is we need to enumerate the usernames, and this can be done, by exploiting the vulnerable plugins. Now, by default, as I've already said, this WordPress version is vulnerable, and it is set up to be vulnerable, and it's just a way of me explaining how this goes, really. Okay, so let me just clear that up, and we can get started. Let me maximize the terminal, because we're going to need all the real estate that we actually need. All right, excellent. Let's begin. So now we're going to start off with, let me just enumerate the help here just to get started. So we're going to actually start enumerating the username. So the username, of course, we're looking at the basic syntax here. So again, since we're using the U command because we're targeting a URL, so the syntax will be pretty simple. We'll be using the U command. We'll be using the E command. If I can find it here. Yeah, there we are, there to enumerate options, and then we're going to be enumerating usernames. So again, it's going to get usernames here, and finally we're going to be targeting only the vulnerable plugins. All right, so that is right here, VP, only the vulnerable plugins. So let's get started. So I'm just going to clear the terminal again, and there we are. So WPScan, and after that we use the IP address, so 192.168.1.108. Excellent. Now we use the E to enumerate. All right, the E command. Now we use U. all right, because we are specifying enumerate username. So u is not actually an argument or a parameter. It's more of an expression of enumerate, right? So EU, so enumerate usernames, and I want you to target only vulnerable plugins. There we are. So hopefully this returns the default username. So I'm going to hit enter, and this should be relatively quickly because again the username is not is going to be the default username. So I'm just going to hit enter, and whoops, sorry about that. Oh, my bad. Apologies. I forgot to specify the U command there to target the URL. So once we hit enter, this should give us, all right, so there we are. And it's targeting the, oh, immediately we've got it. All right, awesome. As you can see, the default WordPress username is admin. So that's the really easy way of targeting vulnerable plugins to find the username. Again, you know, targeting the vulnerable plugins are super important, and this gives you an awesome, as you can see, WordPress Super Cache. I actually have used this plugin before, and actually they've fixed these issues now, but this was something really big. I actually remember a lot of people exploiting this back in the day. The WordPress Super Cache essentially just speeds up your website and purges the files on your website to make it load faster. Anyway, as you can see, it's enumerated the username, and we have the username as admin. Fantastic. Now we need to enumerate the password, or we need to actually brute force for the password. Right. So I already have a word list that I've created, or I had from a long time ago, and it has all the default username and password combinations for most of the top websites, you know, in the world. So for example, Yahoo, Gmail, you know, Twitter, it's all of that stuff. So I have it right here, and I've already modified it and sorted it so that it takes you know, a less amount of time for the WordPress scan to actually get the password. All right, so I'm going to clear this out. So we've got the username, and now we're getting the password. Awesome. So now we essentially need to get the password. So WordPress scan. Let me just enlarge the terminal here and clear that again. WordPress scan, there we are. WordPress scan U 0.108, that's the IP address or the URL for that matter. Now we are also enumerating usernames. Whoops, enumerating the username because it's also very important to enumerate usernames with the password combination. All right, now we specify word list. So we are specifying a word list here. All right, now after we specified the word list, we can then select the directory of the word list. Mine is on my root, and on my it's actually in my root directory. So I'm going to just select the word list.txt file. There we are, and let's hit enter, and let's see what we get. It should actually do this really quickly. This this word list is, oh, there we are, fantastic. I did that really quickly. And again, it's used the brute forcer, and it took like 0 seconds, I believe. There we are. So login, the admin, username is admin, password is admin123, and let's actually try that right now. That was really quickly. That was really quick. So WordPress admin, and the username is admin, password is admin123, I believe, or actually I believe the username was admin with the lowercase, if I'm correct. Yeah, I can actually see that it's telling me to, there we are. All right. And we have successfully exploited WordPress. Now, granted that it's running quite an old version of WordPress 4.7.4. Regardless of that, with the plugins that it does have installed, we were able to exploit it really easily using WordPress scan, and it's a fantastic tool really. Now, one would go about, usually what a lot of the black hats do is they would go to plugins and they would add new, and they would go to the file manager. All right, so let me just show you this right now. They would go to the file manager, and they would look, they would actually install the file manager. Go to plugins and install the file manager plugin, and then they would get a reverse shell and replace it with the 404 page, and then actually trigger that page, and they essentially have access or a reverse shell or a interpreter shell. All right, so they would install the file manager, and if I just if I just search for reverse shell, reverse shell PHP. There we are, reverse shell PHP. And this should actually return quite an easy, there we are, PHP reverse shell. That's the one they use a lot. So I'm just going to activate the file manager here, and I'm just going to download it. It's a pretty small file. I'm going to save. It's essentially a very, very simple PHP. Of course, it has to be in PHP because you're replacing the actual 404 PHP file. All right. So there we are. I'm going to open this up, and I just open that up. Let me extract this here. And we have the PHP reverse shell there. PHP reverse shell, copying the PHP reverse shell. You can read the README and you can configure the PHP reverse shell, obviously, to connect to your IP address here. As you can see, there's a few. There we are. Change this. So the IP address, you essentially change that, and the port you want it to connect to. And yes, you upload it and replace it. You replace it with the editor here, settings, and you go to general, I believe. Is it general? Yes, you go to general, or appearance and customize. There we are, appearance and editor. There we are. That's what we have to go to. And one would go to the 404, if I can find that. There we are, 404 template. And they would replace they would just get rid of all of this, and they would replace this 404 script here and update the file. And what happens is when you go to, for example, 192.168.1.108, and you go to the 404 page, there we are, it would essentially load the script, and you know, there you go, 404.php for that matter. So that would grant you, you know, that would actually act as a backdoor into the WordPress system. And there you go. So that's essentially how to exploit a vulnerable WordPress system. I know this was quite basic, but again, it's very important to understand the flow of procedures and how things work. So we started off with enumerating usernames, passwords, and then we logged in, and then you need to find a way to maintain access, and then there's clearing up your tracks. But in this case, in most cases, the black hat hackers will just take over the entire WordPress site, and they claim responsibility immediately. So that's how it's done, and hopefully this also gives you great awareness and a few security tips you can take away from this. If you're a WordPress site owner, make sure all your subdomains are, if you have a subdomain and you're performing some testing on it, and you're running some really vulnerable scripts, please do not list them. Just work on them in your own modularized environment, and do not upload them to your server until they're ready. Right? The next thing is to keep your WordPress updated and keep your plugins updated. That's very, very important. And I would really, really recommend that you do not install any plugins that do not have good ratings, irregardless of whether or not they perform a task. I would really recommend that you use the most popular and the highest rated ones, because they promise the best security. All right. And the last one is to take regular backups of your site, so that in case of anything, of any breach, any hack, you can easily get a hold of your site, and you can re-upload it to another WordPress server, and you're pretty much good to go. So that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for the support. We are now pushing for 50,000 subscribers. I appreciate all the support, and it's time to get work, videos every day. And yeah, if you found value in this video, please leave a like down below. If you have any questions or suggestions, let me know in the comment section, or you can hit me up on my social networks or on Kick. And you can get the latest hacking news and resources on my website, hsploit.com, and I'll be seeing you in the next video. Peace.